You're recording.
Okay, it's Wednesday at noon,
Is that hard to say?
January 10th. We'll call to order the City of Brainerd Personnel and Finance Committee meeting. Start introductions.
Secretary Ward 1.
Alderman at Large Kevin Stunek.
John Davis, Police Chief.
Connie Hillman, City Finance Director.
Patrick Wusso, Interim City Administrator.
Chris Schubert, HR Director.
I will just note that there's several other BPU staff in the audience and administrative staff here too, so.
Okay, Gabe Johnson, Chair of the Committee. We will get on with 7 items on our agenda, the first of which is to discuss work group recommendations for Public Utilities Director succession planning. Chris, Patrick, whoever has this, I don't know.
I think I can start this off. So we had a nice meeting yesterday at 12:30. The work group did. Attending were Kara, BPU Commissioners Dolly Madden and Mark O'Day, City Administrator Wusso, myself, and Brittany as our HR assistant. In addition, Kelly Bevins attended. The work group really focused on 3 main areas. They looked at the job description, and I have provided you information as far as a redlined and a proposed job description based on the work group's recommendations. Maybe, do you want to go through each item separately and then discuss them separately if there's questions, or just keep going on?
Is there anything administrative staff thinks sticks out that should be discussed independently by the committee?
So the job description was modified. We all agreed upon that. Wage was where there was a little discrepancy. There was not unanimous recommendation on that. The job process, no issues there.
Okay, so then I think we'll start with a motion to approve this job description.
So move.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the job description on this document? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
So we don't have that, or we do?
No. I just realized I had asked Mr. Wusso how the wage should be displayed for you, and I forgot to print it. So basically what it has is for step 4, the work group on a split decision had recommended that the step 4 wage be $151,000 approximately. I can grab that real quickly for you, or?
Why don't you, let me go make some copies of that, so you have that. Why don't you talk about the posting process just?
Okay, sure.
Okay.
So another attachment that you have is
By the way, that's the nice flexibility about this being, we can add things and take things, and so anything you guys need, just let us know.
I already bought the sales pitch, Patrick. I already bought it.
So for the job posting process, really all we tweaked was when the advertising would be. That would be after the council meeting on the 16th when it is approved. So that job posting process would start on the 17th. We had talked about having a first review of applications on February 9th to continue with the job posting process. So that's what this document looks like there. And until the actual, we're assuming that this work group will continue on, but it probably would be a good idea if that work group was reaffirmed, that they are still the work group that should be working on this, for this issue as well. Just continuing for the people that were originally, selected in March of last year. Kara, do you have any other comments on that? Okay. So hopefully we'll have the wage soon. Do you want to go to the next item and while Patrick's making those copies?
Yeah, might as well.
Okay. The next item is ratify the hiring of street maintenance 1, Louis Schlegel. We received 16 applications for the maintenance 1 position with 3 candidates interviewed. We offered the position to Louis Schlegel, who will start with us on Friday. And he's starting at step 1 of the street maintenance 1 wage grid, which is $22.28 per hour. We're just asking that you ratify the hiring of Louis.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the ratification of the hiring? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. We'll go back to item number 1 now that we have the wage data.
There's still one more sheet being printed out, the one that was handed out at the council meeting. The one we handed out at the council meeting was the 10%.
Thank you, sir.
This one is what the committee discussed yesterday.
Correct. So the committee has recommended that we increase that wage for step 6 being $72.78 per hour, which reflects 151,000 annual wages.
Yep, go ahead.
So just to add, I forget his name, Mr. O'Day.
Mark,
Yeah, Mark provided additional information or data that referenced salary and wages across our region, or the north region.
I was gonna ask that same question.
Yep, and based on that data, as well as some other information that I think is in our packet, we
yes.
determined that the step 4 is not high enough, we don't believe, to bring in a quality candidate. You get what you pay for, and so that's the reason for coming in at a bit higher wage. We also recognize that in doing this adjustment, it will also impact other job classifications and wages, and so we'd have to look at those separately from this.
Okay, so it was a split vote. The majority adopted the first document we have. What was the vote?
So if I can just back up a little bit, talk about it more, if I could, and I apologize, but, so the Flaherty and Hood study put it at 5907, and that's at the top of both of these documents, or 122,000. The information we presented on Monday night was the 6498, or 135,000 at step 6, which is highlighted, that's the most recent handout. And then yesterday, the discussion was around 7278, or 151,000. And what this the document we handed out first shows you the city administrator's new salary based upon action taken by the city council. So, and shows you the relationship. What I want to point out to council is the city administrator on our point schedule, grade schedule, is at the highest. City engineer is second at a grade lower. The public utilities director and the police chief are at the grade below that. That's the third highest grade. And so, and there are 2 people in that grade, one in the engineers, one in the city administrator. So it does affect, and that's one of the things we wrestled with and still wrestle with this new wage grids that we're working through. One of the, included in your packet is a great deal of information about comparables in other areas. You know, as the council, you decided who would be the comparables for the Flaherty and Hood study, and that's why there's some difference on what the market rate is.
Right, and I'm looking at,
So yesterday, I'm sorry, Gabe, to answer your question, the other proposal, the recommendation was 151. The other that we were looking at was the 135, which is still above the Flaherty and Hood. Makes changes to the wage grid no matter what, is what we're suggesting.
and one person or preferred the 135 salary?
No, of this, I think there were 6 of us there. It was 3 and 3 kind of thing. We never did, we didn't take a formal vote. I mean, it was informal like today is, kind of a little less formal than today, but it was split. There was good discussion on why not, and it's, as council's had to deal with this, it's tough to wrestle with.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the Flaherty and Hood, and the median there is lower than both of these. So if we want to pay at the median, but since we are trying to fill this empty job position, it is an opportunity to change it. What's your opinion, Kara?
So you might remember the city administrator discussion, and I didn't think we were coming in high enough on that wage. I think the same with the public utilities director. As I mentioned, you get what you pay for, so I think I was one of the 3 that was in support of the 151, 382. I believe that in today's job market, we need to be an employer of choice, and in doing so would be through the wages. I do recognize that it's going to cause us some issues with the other positions, so we'll need to revisit those as well, but I'm in support of the 151.
So I have trouble with the 151 being that we're basically saying we want to underpay our chief of police or we want to move him to 151. And if we're going to move everybody, %30 higher than Flaherty and Hood recommended, it's gonna get real expensive real fast. So that one's tough. What do you think, Kevin?
I agree with what Carrie Terra said, but I think, because we want to get quality employees, I think 151's a little high. What if we balance to 135 and 151 and do a split or something like that, or halfway in between? Then we're still putting it out there as a better wage, but we're not going to 151. That's just a thought.
And Mr. Chair, I am not in favor of paying this one more with not paying the chief more. Like I said, there are other positions that will be influenced that we would need to look at. I'm just focused on this one position today, which is what we did in our discussion yesterday or whenever we met as well.
Right, that's like focusing on just putting the slinky at the top of the stairs, not knowing what's gonna happen.
We have an idea of what's going to happen. But Patrick was very good at keeping us on track and not diverting to all these other discussions about what we may do with these other positions. It's what do we need today to focus on with this specific position, knowing that there will be impacts as we move forward.
Well, we need to be able to draw quality people. And one way to do that is by wage. And we had that discussion last Tuesday or Monday, whatever the council was.
Well, we're here to make a decision.
Are you in favor then, Chairman Johnson, of the 135?
I would support a 135, yeah.
Do I hear 140?
That's what I was saying. Maybe
Meet
we,
in the middle.
yeah, a little bit in the
Split the
middle.
15 and, 143,
Or 140 even?
yeah. I,
Make it.
we're just getting out of compliance with pay equity. I mean,
Yes, it will impact that.
it's,
I will make the motion to, I'm gonna need help with this, to change the wage?
Set?
Set the
Adjust it,
wage?
maybe.
To the 140?
How is that gonna work out hourly then?
So you're asking that to be forwarded to the recommendation from the committee be $140,000 for this position at step 6.
Yep. Well, what is the max then we can hire at?
Well,
140.
Still the-
Well,
still step
right
four?
now, the Flaherty and Hood study has it at 115. The administration proposal would have been 126. The proposal from the committee was 141. 140 is gonna reduce, I would be guessing, it would be less.
Right. We utilize
Bill,
steps 1
133.
through 4 typically for our hiring range. So with this new number, I don't know if Connie can do the numbers in her head or Danny, how that would work. But with that said,
It'd be about 126,000.
okay,
Assuming that step 4 is 90%, I think it should be a little bit higher than that.
Technically, the administrator, the 135 that we proposed was at 126, so I would say it'd be more like 130, ballparking.
Well, and I was thinking it would be more for the hiring range, that would be what we can go up to be more attractive to bring somebody on board, as opposed to the 126. I don't mean to be difficult, guys, sorry.
So the 140 would be step 6.
Would be step 4 unless we do it step 6 and authorize hiring up to step 6, right?
oh,
Well-
sorry, Connie, do you need?
Okay,
more?
let's, we're rescinding the motion right now and having a little more discussion on this, working this through, right?
Yes.
Okay. The hiring range for our employee policy manual is steps 1 through 4.
Correct.
That's what administrative staff can negotiate when they're giving a job up. If somebody wants to negotiate to 5, 6, they can by coming to the city council to authorize hiring at step 5 or 6. So we can hire at 6, but staff doesn't have the authority per the employee policy manual to
Do that.
recommend. They have to say that the candidate, and BPU does that every time. The candidate demanded 6, so I expect that will happen.
Okay. Some of our discussion yesterday was that we changed step 4 to equal the step 6. And so I didn't know if that was part of what we discussed or
So
so.
step 4 would be the 135.
Yes?
Step 4 would be 130-ish if we did 140 at step 6. 131.
31.
Step 4, if you have your step 6 at 140,000, step 4 would be 131.
Which I think
That's
is,
reasonable to me.
yeah, more palatable than the 126, not by much, but
It's got a 3 instead of a 2.
I don't have a problem with that.
And then just reconfirm, right now with the Flaherty and Hood study, step 4 is 115, so it would be $16,000 higher than that.
What did we adjust the city administrator to for annualized salary?
Right below you, that's the most recent handout?
Oh, there it is, yeah.
So step 4 would be 131, step 6 would be the 140.
Yes. If that was the motion.
and the 151 came from our discussion.
Comparing ourselves to Rochester, people found Rochester's numbers and used that, yeah.
Okay, so I'll remake my motion to be what it was before with the 140
That's step 6.
at step 6.
And then step 4 would be 131. Okay, I second that.
We have a motion and a second to set the Public Utilities Director step 6 annualized wage at $140,000. Any discussion? I'll vote in favor of this just to be done with it, but I don't like it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next item on the agenda, we'll jump down to 3, to ratify the hiring of Administrative Specialist Fire Department. Caitlin, not gonna
Why?
try it.
Why, is what I
Yeah.
say. So Caitlin, when we advertised for that position, we received 31 applications, and we interviewed 10 individuals. We offered the position to Caitlin. She'll be starting with us on January 16th on step 1 of the admin specialist wage grid, which is $24.10 per hour. So any questions on that?
So move.
Second?
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next up, update regarding the resubmittal of the pay equity report.
So we have been working on the information for the pay equity report. As the committee is aware, when we filed our report in January of 2023, we were found to be in non-compliance. Flaherty and Hood helped us to submit it was called a request for reconsideration, and we got an extension to January 31st of 2024. Looking at the information, the cheapest option, which Gabe had asked us for before, is basically to increase our female non-union employees that are currently below the step 6 wage for the Flaherty and Hood wage grid to that Flaherty and Hood wage grid. So that impacts 4 different individuals, specifically the HR director, the finance director, the transit coordinator, and the police administrative supervisor. And again, what we're doing is changing the wage so that the 1231 wage is the wage recommended by Flaherty and Hood. In addition, we do need to make another slight adjustment. That is to, the recommendation is to our recreation coordinator position. Now, we do need to file that position on our report this year. That was a position that we had someone in 2023, and there could be an opportunity where our rec specialist, that'll be starting next week, may get promoted to that position within the next 3 years. So we can list that position in there and do like a $300 per month adjustment to that wage in addition to what Flaherty and Hood is recommending, but it doesn't actually cost us anything. So that is staff's recommendation. I hope that made sense. We will make sure and have a full wage resolution for you for the full council packet. So it would be adopting a wage resolution with the 1231 wages for those 5 positions, step placement for those individuals based on what Flaherty and Hood had recommended, And then also to request approval of the implementation report. That is something that is also needed in order to submit a report to pay equity.
And none of that's available for the committee today.
I worked on it last night at 11 o'clock and at 5 o'clock this morning,
Oh,
but
you're losing me, Patrick.
I have the information if you want to see it. I could go print it off.
Was this
for you.
information for
I'm not
today?
gonna vote on something I haven't seen.
Why don't you go print that out then, Chris?
Okay, I'll do that.
You're talking about printing this out, right?
I'll print out the wage information that you had provided.
Okay.
Okay, we'll jump ahead. Item 5, adopt corrected general fund budget. Connie, what'd we do?
Hold on, I made a mistake. The budget that was adopted at the December 18th council meeting, I did not include the levy and the repayment of the loans for the League of Minnesota Cities and BPU for the settlement of the lawsuit. So when we do the budget the whole time, I put that as part of the debt levy, but because there's not a debt service, it cannot be part of the debt levy and it's part of the general fund. And I just did not include that with the amended, or with the budget was presented on the 18th.
But it was included in the debt levy?
Yes.
So we just need to move that number from the debt to the general? Okay.
And so attached to the packet, which, it just basically, it gives the 12/31/18 budget that was adopted, and then it says the 2024 amended budget, and it just increases the property taxes, and it added a line for other sources and uses of the equal amount.
See, when I meet in your office, Connie, you can just flip your computer screen around and pull it up and show it to me. Yeah.
If I have it done
Here, we don't
already.
have anything.
If I don't have it already, I can just give this to you. I did print this out.
So the revenues for property taxes in the working funds
Correct.
goes up $250,000.
Yes,
253, and then it comes out of the other uses. So
Yes.
that's 253 from the debt levy into
Yes.
the general property tax revenue.
yes.
Okay.
So should I make a motion?
Yeah.
I will make a motion to adopt the corrected general fund 2024 budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Review of 2024 workers' comp premium.
So this is just informational, there's no action required. We didn't have our actual renewal rates when we were doing our budget for 2024. We were using a 0% increase in rates and an experience mod of adjustment of 0.9, which our experience mod in 2023 was 0.85.
Good.
The actual renewal rates came in with a 15% decrease in rates, an experience mod of 0.97. So we're different. If we would have used those numbers, the city would have budgeted a total workers' comp of $347,802. What was in the budget was $379,983. So
We're
about different
already
with
under
32,000.
budget.
So just
love that.
informational. We, of course, we don't know what it's actually gonna be, what people work overtime. We don't have all the wages settled, so that's just an estimate, but gives you an idea of what the renewal rates mean financially.
Thank you, Connie.
Perfect.
You want to go back to that other item?
Yeah, we'll go back to this pay equity.
Thank you.
So we're adjusting wages for 5 positions,
Correct.
and these wages,
Correct. This is the 2023 wage grid proposed by Flaherty and Hood.
yep, and 4 of the 5 are what Flaherty and Hood proposed, but the one on top is a little higher.
Right, it's an additional $300 per month, approximately with rounding, so.
That is for a position that is open, but we are required to maintain that information for 3 years. If we don't fill it, then it can go away, but if we do fill it, it's got to be filled at that wage rate then.
Okay, didn't we fill it?
We filled the specialist, so, but this, because that's
Oh,
lower-
right, we have a specialist instead of a coordinator, so yeah. Okay.
So, but yeah, so again, it's what I'm calling another fault of this entire program, because you can have a position that isn't even open, give it more money, and you can qualify under the program.
Well, just keep that one in our back pocket. Why are we going through all the trouble when we could just do easy
Why
stuff?
don't you just stay here?
Yeah,
Sorry, my ears were plugged up there. I didn't hear a word you said.
You heard what I said.
Well, okay. Thanks for printing this out. Now I understand it.
It's a learning process, so if you guys do this kind of meeting, and again, we'll make sure any action items have information included in the packet.
Thank you.
I make a motion to adopt the new pay grade.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt pay for these 5 positions as of 12/31/23. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. That brings us to the 7th item, consider non-union employee wage appeals.
Okay.
I didn't know if you would all have your computers or not, so I did print out the information that was submitted by the employees. So you have that information.
So late January, or December, staff met with the department heads, division managers, and non-union employees. And so included in your packet is the information that we provided them that would be effective 1/1/24 with a 2.5% increase. You have the numbers there, and then on the back sheet, the second sheet, it goes through what their steps would be, where they place on the document. Several of the employees were frozen, and we've talked about a lump sum amount, and that is included on the very far right corner of that second sheet, what those dollar amounts would be. These employees are non-union, and this information was presented to them. We wanted to give them the opportunity to appeal this information, and we suggested at that time that this committee would hear those appeals. Of all the employees identified in this list, the 4 individuals are here they've made appeals, and they've provided information, and so we wanted to share that with you. We could, I don't know which order you'd like to go with, one at a time.
Maybe just on the list as they submitted them?
Sure, let's do that, as they were submitted. And so number 1 was Operations Manager Trent Hawkinson. So on that sheet, I'm trying to find, okay, so the first sheet that shows the steps on 1/1/24, Operations Manager Hawkins was the 4th from the bottom. And then I think it was alphabetical on the next page.
He would be in the middle section because he's a division manager.
In the middle of the middle.
Yeah.
So why don't you review where he would be at, and then he can talk and make his presentation after that.
So at this point, I'm going to summarize Connie's spreadsheet, and Connie, if I misrepresent, please correct me. On the information, Mr. Hawkinson's wage is currently over the proposed wage from Flaherty and Hood. His current 12/31 wage was $71.87. The Flaherty and Hood recommendation for step 7 was $61.64. It does show that he would be frozen for this year. It also shows that he would receive a full 2.5% lump sum of a little over $3,700. Is that what you were asking me to provide, Patrick?
Yep. And the other thing is too, we do not have this on the agenda planned for next week. We were assuming that you might have questions of us, and so we'd have to get some more information to get back to you. So we're planning that this would be presented, the entire group would be presented the first meeting in February at this point in time.
Okay.
Trent? Oh, Connie has a question. Sorry, Trent.
Actually, just to provide additional clarification as well. Everybody was placed on the Flaherty and Hood grid based on a current wage equal to or greater than what their 12/31/2023 wage is. You can notice that Trent is actually being placed on the Flaherty and Hood grid on step 7 because he had actually already achieved step 7 on our old grid. So therefore we said you can go up to step 7, otherwise he would have been capped at step 6, just to clarify that as well.
Thank you. Trent, go ahead, sir.
Can I add one other thing too? Sorry, you didn't there. The other thing, so Trent would get a lump sum of about $3,700, but he would be paid at the $71.87 per hour for the whole year. So he's
Next year.
in 2024. Yes. Okay, I'm done now.
Okay, go ahead, Trent.
Thank you for the opportunity. I think there's a couple things, and I guess I'm really here today to answer questions as you guys have of me. But it's quite obvious between the numbers that we were able to procure and the numbers that F&H did for us, they're not lining up at all. I don't think that it's been a real good depiction of the utility side through this study. And we provided numbers from APPA and MMUA, which are directly speaking to my position on an electric capacity. Brainerd Public Utilities Operations Manager has, as of today, does not have an active job description with the newly noted duties and other things that have been. Water distribution now is underneath the purview of the operations manager. It was not, and it's not intended to represent the numbers that we have here today. These are strictly electric numbers from APPA. So with this study being done and the review of a job description that isn't even accurate as of today, I have some concerns that we missed the boat on the opportunity of where this position should be placed as of today. I've been at the utility now for, I think, around 17 years. In my current wage, I do have longevity built into that. That is something that I feel like through this process is somewhat getting taken away, reduced from my employment from what I've put in for the last 17 years here. I have some serious concerns on the direction that we're going with staffing the utility staff for the future of the utility and where these wages are to be able to get quality employees. I'm afraid that we will lose some of our quality employees through this process and where these wages are landing. And that is an effort that I will stand up here for a long time and ask any questions that you guys may have of me to explain my rationale behind that and where we're trying to go as a utility. Did you have an opportunity to look at the numbers that we presented? Do you have any questions on those?
Nope.
So this document,
Yep.
which pages would I reference?
25 would be the first one that I would look at. So they're
Okay.
breaking off in several different things, and I think that's where the quality of this particular job study comes into play, is we can look at it through revenues from the utility and customer meter counts is also depicted in here. So I think page 25, Danny, our finance manager, and me worked together on this, so he might be able to answer some more specifics of that. But I can go to any side of this report you'd like to ask questions on, but it really gives a broad spectrum of if we want to use meter count, if we want to use annual revenues. The other thing I'll point out that the scale and the numbers of utilities that responded to this is a much higher number than we got from F&H. So that's something that I think needs to be weighed in. These are regional, so these are looking at the Midwest numbers. These are our neighbors, these are our neighboring states, these are what these jobs are paying. The other thing I would add to that is, especially in the operation manager's role, you see many of those bullet points on there that depict to all these positions that we don't have at BPU. So all these utilities that are like size to us have all these positions that we're wearing many of these hats. So I think that's something that needs to be discussed a little more. Also, you can see a lot of the bullets on there. We don't have those positions. We are currently doing them in other roles. So to get a fair shake at the Brainerd Public Utilities job descriptions is a challenge. We do a lot with very little, and we're very proud of that. I guess I'm wondering where we're missing the mark as a utility stands and why we're going backwards. The utility's been very progressive. We're moving forwards. We have the lowest rates in our region compared to anybody that could close to us. We have less staff. We do more with little. So I'm kind of confused in the direction that we're going, and I have a lot of fears for the future of the utility with this current direction.
Trent, would it be,
Floor is yours.
I'm sorry, I think another point you brought up too was, because council's always concerned about the levy, this is a non-levy
Correct.
situation. So when they talk public utilities, it doesn't directly affect the levy dollars.
Correct, yes, thank you for adding that. I think that's something that maybe has been missed in this also, that we are not affecting the levy by our rates out there. And I think that, the reality of it is the numbers are there between MMUA, which is a state organization, and the APPA, which is national, which dials into our region. These are really good numbers. If you look at the numbers, they are showing that we are currently underpaid. And there's not, well, at least I'll speak for myself, I'm not here saying I need a raise, I need this and that, but I'm gonna have a challenge being frozen in my wages, and a lot of what I'm getting frozen is my longevity. From what my perception of this, the work that I've put in already is being taken back from me. So I struggle with that. I struggle with how we're gonna fill these positions in the future.
So you had mentioned that the job description at the time of this review was not up to date. Did you have an opportunity to weigh in on that JD that was submitted to make those updates, or? Because I thought employees did that as well. as their
Yep,
managers.
so, I mean, it's hard for me, do you want me to write my own job description? It's kind of where I'm at. So the job description needs to be written and given to me, I assume. I mean, I can help develop a job description in that process, but I don't think that's what you guys are asking me to do, is to write my job description. If something you would like, I can definitely take a stab at it for review, but I feel that as staff, my job description should be presented to me. We made extra roles and duties onto that. It was, there was no financial gain for us on that. We absorbed that, we put another hat on our head, and we just kept on going.
Well, I want to apologize, Trent. I'm sorry that our staff did not, your supervisor did not give you a job description. We assumed he would have.
Yeah, because that's what I thought happened as a part of the process. But you're saying that didn't. So what was evaluated wasn't the JD that should have been? Or,
The information presented to Flaherty and Hood originally was back in December. The information was given to them based on the JAC that he had completed at that time. We reorganized the department. We informed Flaherty and Hood of the change. Trent also filed an appeal for his points, so Flaherty and Hood was aware of what his changes were. He provided a summary of some of the duties that he has added. At this point, I have not had a chance to update those job descriptions. We are hoping to do that. We did approve an updated organizational chart back in August, and staff just has not had the time to do that. We're working on that or hoping to do that soon, but he's absolutely correct. We have not had a chance to do that.
And I would like to add to what Chris just said there. I'm in no push or drive saying I need one today. That's not the intent. I think we need to keep our utility operating, and that's what we've been doing, and that's when we kind of move these roles around. It was, hey, we'll just put these extra hats on, we'll keep moving forward, we'll figure it out at the end of the day. That's what the utility does every single day. We never have a day without a problem. We're very good at dealing with those. So these are just, as we see them, more opportunities to do a better job.
and I don't dispute that you're doing an amazing job. I know you are. And I apologize for my ignorance. So just need to get clear in my understanding briefly, or a long time. So the information that was provided to Flaherty and Hood the second time around as a part of the appeal was the additional job information, and the points came back the same? Okay, so they are aware of the additional duties and, okay.
The employee had an opportunity to appeal. They provided information. I also told employees they could meet with me and provide additional information as well.
Okay.
What I was given from the employees all was submitted to Flaherty and Hood, and that was just done within the last month.
So the new,
So the points were not changed for this position after Flaherty and Hood had looked at it. They did not recommend a wage adjustment either.
Gabe, can I comment
you.
too?
Yes, please do.
So to review the scale again, I'm looking at this one sheet. The city administrator's at the top, even though it's at the bottom of the page. You then have the engineer, which is second. The public utilities director and police chief is third. And then right below that is Trent's position with several others. And so you wouldn't rank them higher under this system than their supervisor.
I get that. I just wanted to make sure that all of the information that is included in their JDs and whatever other acronym you used that started with the J. JAC. Were evaluated. So they did get all of the information to evaluate and based their opinion on all of the information.
Well, I would think that evaluation was based off of what I'm perceiving that my new responsibilities are. I have not been told what the new responsibilities are. We just put the hats on our head and we kept going.
Okay.
So that's the reality where we're at. There's many things in the job description that aren't in the job description that this position does on a daily basis. So through our reorganization, which, yes, we did it on paper, we have not executed that. We have not got the positions that we've needed yet, and that's bogging us down. So we're short a few positions out the utility right now. Succession planning is a big thing for me. That's a big deal for me, and we're not doing a good job of that right now.
Thank you.
Any questions, Kevin? Okay, well, thanks, Trent. I
Thank
think
you
we
for
have any
hearing
other
me.
questions. Who's next on the list?
Standing.
Let's go.
I got you.
It's Manny's next, yes.
Danny.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have the same, I guess, do we want to go through the whole?
What they have is, your information, as far as what you submitted, some of your information was combined with Trent's. So they have the APPA survey, they have the MMUA survey that you provided, they have the wage grid that you submitted as well, highlighting your information as well as the agenda request, everything that you asked for.
And then just my last bit, so if you look at where Trent was located, he was fourth from the top. Danny's position would be fifth from the top, identified as finance manager. Just as a way of background.
Ready for me to proceed, Gabe?
Yeah, ready to go, Danny?
So looking at, I guess my question, looking at July 3rd is when the position was approved by council, and we created this wage grid that was recommended by Flattery and Hood at the time. During the hiring process, it was my understanding that the compensation study, I knew that was coming. Chris made that very clear during the process, that that was in process. And with my history as an auditor, I used that as part of my hiring decision. In looking at the steps that were provided by Flattery and Hood from July 3rd to just the December 31st, 2023 grid that was presented based on their recommendations, I was hired on at step 5 at $47.54, and then step 5 as of the 12/31 wage is now $53.38, which is more in line with present market based on the MMUA and APPA study. It is still, in my opinion, under market, but is more in line with market. So that was what I wanted for consideration, is I am now placed at step 2, which is what Connie had kind of presented earlier, in that that's how it was decided, but wanted to get that in front of all of you. So being that on the July 3rd, my understanding was step 5 was market rate, and now the Flattery and Hood recommended rate after the study was complete is a higher market. And we knew that the Flattery and Hood on July 3rd was an artificial rate based on the finance director's position at that time for pay equity. Did I say that correctly?
I think so. So what I can also say is, I had told you that I cannot guarantee
Correct.
anything when you were hired. I said we were completing a market study, but I could not guarantee there was going to be any adjustments made.
You did, yep.
Yes, okay.
Any questions for me on that?
Makes sense to me. Any questions?
I don't think so. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Danny.
Next on the list is Police Chief John Davis.
140? Go ahead, John.
Thank you. Just to give a little bit of background, in 2021, it was recognized that within our department, there was a pretty narrow wage gap between the supervisory staff members. At that time, the council looked at the issue. There was a city market study that was completed looking at City of Brainerd administrator and department head wages. That study showed that, and the study involved 13 other comparable police cities. At that time, looking at the police chief wage, the step 5 median for the comparable cities was $117,000 and some change. Brainerd Police Chief step 5 position was below that, approximately $5,700. I know that I've heard some from the council speak before as to philosophy and how looking at the median, and if not, maybe a little above median is, kind of a philosophy. So I would assume that was taken into consideration. So in December of 2021, the city council had increased the police chief wages for the years up through 2024. When they did so, the police chief step 5 wage was placed at that $117,000 mark, about $400 within the median that the comparable showed within that market study. Now, since then, Flaherty and Hood study, some of the comparables had changed. And Some cities that have similar populations, similar sized police departments, were excluded from that, and there was other cities that had smaller populations, smaller police departments included in that. I believe, I can't speak for certain, but I believe that maybe played a part in what I'm bringing to you today. I think that maybe within a market study with some positions within a city, that a population or a size of a department is not as significant as a position as police chief, where I think there's a pretty good correlation between size of city and size of departments, and therefore size of duties and responsibilities for a police chief. So after the Flaherty and Hood market study and the new wage grid that's proposed, the police chief is one of just a few to where the Flaherty and Hood proposal came back less. When I accepted this position in June of this last year, I was aware that the council had passed a resolution setting for the remainder of 2024 the police chief wages. And, part of my decision-making process accepting the position was based on that. Now, what's being proposed is currently I am at step 3. What is being proposed under the Flaherty and Hood is that the first of this year, I would automatically go from step 3 to step 4. Therefore, the beginning of this year, I would not receive a pay cut. I would receive a pay increase of only 5 cents. However, I was scheduled to advance a step on my anniversary date in June. So therefore, under Flaherty and Hood, I may be receiving a 5-cent raise now, but come this June, I would then be getting a pay cut of 58 cents an hour. So what I'm bringing you today is just a little bit of the background as far as that comparable. The deliberate action the council took a couple of years ago with the police chief pay to address the supervisory gap, look at the medians of other cities, and that, essentially maybe not today I'd be taking a pay cut, but in June my pay, would start going down when comparing currently what the pay scale is compared to what the Flaherty and Hood is. So what I'm looking for would be just for the council to continue with the police chief wage grid as it is already set to be in 2024, and moving forward in subsequent years, using that as a basis, to continue down the road. However, if that was not desirable to the council and it was decided that the Flaherty and Hood proposal would be accepted for the police chief, then I had a secondary thought as far as my step placement to where I would not be taking a pay cut, but yet, down the road continuing under that new pay grid, so.
Thank you, Chief. I have one question, and maybe it's Chris Connie. This document doesn't show you getting a pay cut or pay frozen, So, that's just because of your anniversary date?
If I may. Yes, that is correct. So as you'll see there, it's illustrated there, by moving from step 3 to step 4, the first of the year would be a 5-cent increase. However, in June, on an anniversary date, I'd go to step 5. Now when you compare what step 5 is under Flaherty and Hood, under what it currently is, it's a 58-cent difference. So essentially June 3rd,
Okay.
I would be making 58 cents less than right now what I'm set to be making on June 3rd.
Well, that's interesting. If that hadn't dawned on us, I don't think we've talked about that.
Chief Davis, as well as our deputy police chief, currently have settled or current wage resolutions through 2024. They are the only non-union employees that have 2024 wage settlements. All the other employees had them end on 12/31 of 23. The reason why the police chief and the deputy chief are different is because we did a market review as part of the LELS negotiations, and we wanted to make sure we addressed a compression issue for the supervisory. So that's why their wage actually matches what the LELS union and the Teamsters union settlement dates are.
So when you bring a wage proposal to the council, are you keeping the chief and the deputy chief on the DDA grid for 2024?
We've noticed this issue, we've talked about it. I don't know if we've actually made a formal recommendation, but
This is one of those that we would bring back more information, so you guys could have that agreement to include it, so you know what he's exactly talking about.
yes.
Well, okay, yeah, I think we need further exploration
Oh, I agree.
Yes.
on that for sure.
Yes.
But again, if we're gonna retain good employees, we can't be,
I'm not in favor of
58
reducing
cents.
the chief's
if
wages.
I were in his shoes or was I was fire chief and Patrick said, oh, by the way, we're gonna cut your wage by 50 cents, I'd go, yeah, okay, yeah, right. We'll see how that works for us. But you can't do that.
Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Okay,
Fourth on our list is electric distribution supervisor Mitch Lake.
Blackout.
Thank you, Mitch.
Good afternoon. Thank you
let
for
her
your
rip,
time.
Mitch.
I'll take this off. I just wanted to voice some of my concerns and frustrations. I've been with Brainerd Public Utilities as a journeyman lineman for 6 years. November 7th, I accepted the distribution line supervisor at a step 6. It was offered to me at a step 4, which at the time on the 2023 Flaherty and Hood grid was 5115. And I had stated my concerns then that I'd be leaving significant amount of money on the table taking this. It's not a promotion. I have my last year's pay stub here, and I had grossed 120,888. My salary right now at 5541 is capped out at 115,000. So there's $5,000 on the table by taking this position, and that's only going to get worse. I was anticipating to move up to a step 7 due to 3 years of meets and achieves. That's not an option, it doesn't seem, with this new thing. And I guess I'm frustrated with that. I feel like instead of trying to get good and keep good employees, that I'm being smothered and capped. And if there's any clarification on what's happening. When I took the position, I was told at a step 6, don't worry about that. You got room to grow, step 7, step 8, and I don't feel like that's happening.
okay, Chris, to clarify that, if he one exceeds in 3 years at his current position, he moves to step 7, correct?
He has to be in his current position he has to be in his current position for 3 years and at step 6 before he could advance to step 7. So it isn't something that would happen within the next 3 years. That is what our employee policy manual requires.
Okay.
And to refresh your memory, when we discussed Mitch's promotion, we did look at standby pay as a reason why we increased from step 4 to step 6 for him, because he was guaranteed to lose money, that he was scheduled to work those standby hours and receive that pay. So we did try to make an adjustment for him at that point.
Which to me is still $5,000 short of what I was capable of making as a journeyman lineman. And I guess that doesn't seem right to me.
Mitch is also one of those positions that's frozen for 2024. If you see that, step 6 of the Flaherty and Hood would be at 5461, so he would also, be frozen for all of 2024.
I guess that's all I had to say.
Any questions? Thanks, Mitch.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's everybody.
Yes, it is.
What further information would we like to see at our next committee meeting?
I would like to talk with Chris a bit more, just so I have a better understanding of how this all shook out in terms of these specific positions, so I am not sure.
Okay. Well, I know part of the problem with the three at the Water and Light Department is they were on a separate wage grid. They were being paid from that, and then we failed pay equity. So part of the reason is getting us all onto one pay grid, and it didn't work out well for that department. And, you know, and maybe it is wrong. I'm not all confident in Flaherty and Hood's work. But we still need to comply with pay equity, so.
I really struggle that we have to have employees that have to come and try to justify their job. It just it's saddening. Because we shouldn't have to do that. And now we're in a quadrant.
Gabe?
Pat?
If I might, just the opposite of that, though, there are employees too that saw increases and will see substantial increases. They're not here today because they're receiving the increase.
They're not contesting that?
Discounting anything these employees have said today, they're right on. The point is, there is another side of this too. The ones who are happy aren't gonna come here and say something different.
So I think at the very least, we want some information on the chiefs, even though we did just give that job class a raise for a different
That
job
grade-
position.
Yeah, that grade was modified.
But, so we definitely want to figure out how that happened and a solution, or I think the solution is we put 140 at step 6, to be honest. And then with the utility guys, we're going to need more information. We have the medians from their trade associations and whatnot. We don't have the medians for those three. I do in front of me right now, but we don't have for those 3 job classes from the Flaherty and Hood. Where did Flaherty and Hood have the median wage at? How does that compare to what the data they presented?
Right. So if I can just state, we just received these yesterday, so we haven't had a chance to digest and try to make any kind of recommendation to you. We wanted them to have the opportunity to talk to the committee, and then on February 5th, we'll be able to have a chance to really get the information together and discuss it with you.
Actually, the 5th will be the actual council meeting. So
Correct.
we would meet the Wednesday before that. I think it's February 1st. So we would we could come back with recommendations and make that, share that with these individuals ahead of time too.
Yeah, I'd like that, and just further, more information on what our wage study said for these 3 positions at least, and.
Okay.
And then how does, to Trent's point, the longevity factor in to the Flaherty and Hood wages, or does it?
So when we first adopted the wage grid, step 6 was replacing longevity. Flaherty and Hood has recommended that we no longer utilize that. This is a different proposal and a different wage grid. We have discussed that with the unions as well. So
For the criteria?
step 6 is now considered the max. The reason why Flaherty and Hood recommended that is because we were all over the board when we were getting information from different entities. When we asked them what their market was, most entities were like, what do you mean by market? That was something that DDA had told us, and it was very hard to get those kind of numbers. Flaherty and Hood has always used min and max information. When we were working with Councilmember Johnson, the very first one that he looked at was Alexandria, and Alexandria was including their performance-based pay in their market. So when you look at that kind of information, it is very hard to compare apples to apples or apples to oranges. So we did the best we could.
Yeah, looking at the data coming in after it was all compiled, the pay equity report that we talk about, we're submitting at step 6, knowing full well we have a step 7 and 8, but because they're performance-based, the state of Minnesota doesn't care about that too. That's another interesting aspect. So then when we started talking to the other agencies, found similar things. Some of them did include the performance, some of them didn't. So it would literally take days worth of HR staff going to each city to try to make it apples to apples. And so we have to present the information we have as best we can and share it with you.
Sure. Thank you.
But back to the longevity thing, it's a good question because the council hasn't discussed for just getting rid of longevity. I mean, we got rid of it for new hires, but at that time, we offered a legacy option. The council,
So longevity was an extra 4% over. So step 5 was considered market. Step 6 was considered longevity with an extra 4%.
I understand what the
So we
HR
changed
department,
that.
I understand the HR department wording, but from an employee's perspective, we said you can get on the grid or you can keep your longevity. And they said, I want to keep my longevity. And a few years later, we're saying there's no more longevity, I think. And I don't know if that decision has really been made by the council.
Actually, department heads did not have that choice when we went to the DDA grid. All non-union supervisors were placed on the grid.
Was Trent a non-union supervisor then? Oh, so it was just another BPU thing. Okay.
So we,
Any other questions?
No.
so we will provide additional information and get that back to you at the February 1st meeting.
That's on a Thursday?
Wednesday, should be a Wednesday, whatever.
We need to discuss when the meeting will occur. The time, Wednesdays do not work for Alderman.
Wednesdays are really horrible for me.
Yep.
And
So what
for
if we
stupid
switched
reason,
it
but
to-
it is.
What if we switched it to like Thursdays at 10 a.m.? Or Thursdays, so then we would have time to prepare for the packet? Or the item would be pushed off until the next agenda?
Yeah, Thursdays at 10 wouldn't be good for the packet, being that the packets are all supposed to be done at, 3 o'clock on Wednesday. So it would either have to be the Tuesday, and thank you for correcting me, or you can go back to your regular schedule 10 minutes before.
Well, I can do Wednesday if it's a little earlier. I mean, I hate to be the bad apple,
Or you could go
but
at 4:30 too, after it doesn't, trying to keep it during the day when you don't have to pay staff.
what about
overtime.
11 o'clock on Thursday, or whatever, Wednesday? Wednesday's at 11. Or do we have to have a set time every month? Maybe, okay, next month, Wednesday at 11 works.
I'm a man of routine.
I mean, I'm just,
What is your Tuesday?
if there's no other option,
This committee makes that decision on when they meet.
Yep. Yeah, we could meet willy-nilly, but I'd like to have a.
well, no, I agree with that.
So Tuesday afternoons don't work. Wednesday at 11 works for me.
That would work for me on the 31st. I would need to look.
31st. Oh, yeah, okay. Wednesday, 11, I'm in.
Wednesday, 11 on the 31st of January.
Yep, that'll be our next meeting and we'll figure it out from there. And we are going to be talking about your wages again, so you're all welcome to come back.
Thank you.
So this was a little bit more formal than I had anticipated, but that comes and goes, and so hopefully you liked it.
We could try a roundtable forum next time if you want.
Okay. Stay in this room. If we do roundtable, would it be better if we went to downstairs for recording purposes? I think, because if we tried to meet at that table, realized after the fact that we couldn't video it as well. So,
Oh, yes, second floor at 11 o'clock, meeting a roundtable. Please have as much stuff printed out as you can.
we fully understand your voting procedures.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, with that, we're adjourned.